Hello and welcome back to Football Daily, where today we have a spicy one for you. 10 times football Twitter got it wrong. Remember, the most liked comment will feature on Sunday Vibes, so get involved. 10. Bruno is better than KDB. When two great players emerge who play the same position, football Twitter likes nothing more than to pore over every detail and pick their respective abilities apart. We saw it with Gerrard and Lampard, and now we see it with De Bruyne and Bruno. Let's have it right, Bruno has been quite simply exceptional for Man United. 44 goals and 25 assists in 84 games, or 0.8 goal contributions per game, is phenomenal output. And if he continues at that rate, there is a very strong likelihood that he'll finally get his hands on a trophy with the Red Devils. But two-time PFA Player of the Year winner De Bruyne, an award decided by his fellow professionals, a point that shouldn't be overlooked, has been operating at this level for years. He's averaged at least 0.7 goal contributions per game across the last 9 seasons at City and Wolfsburg before that. 2020-21 was the first full campaign in which we could directly compare, and KDB averaged more shots, key passes, dribbles and expected assists, whilst Bruno had a better goal-scoring record. Factor in De Bruyne's added versatility, and it's clear he's the superior all-round footballer. 9. Jordan Henderson isn't a good player. Rewind to August 2012 and Jordan Henderson is being told by new manager Brendan Rodgers that he's prepared to use him in a make-weight in a deal for Fulham's Clint Dempsey. As bizarre as that sounds, now knowing that Henderson went on to lead Liverpool through their most successful period this century and become a key cog for England, it didn't back then. He'd had a mediocre debut season, often looking overawed by the occasion and struggling in Gerrard's shadow. But whilst Henderson won Rodgers over playing 88 games across his first 2 seasons at the club, it took the general public longer to appreciate his qualities. His defensive actions haven't dipped below 3 per 90 across his time at the club, but he now couples that with excellent long-range passing, with his average of 4.1 long balls per game since the start of 2019-20, ranking in the top 8 of Premier League midfielders, whilst his 7.5 progressive passes per 90 puts him in the 98th percentile in Europe, above the likes of Modric, Koke, Tielemans and De Jong. An exceptional player and an even better leader, Henderson is a wonderful asset for Liverpool. 8. Xhaka only passes sideways. After 5 seasons in North London which had yielded 2 FA Cups, a run to the Europa League final but also countless error-strewn performances, we believed a fresh start for Granit Xhaka under Jose Mourinho at Roma this summer, in a league which would suit his languid style, would have been perfect. But unfortunately for the Swiss and sections of the fanbase, the deal collapsed, with Roma forced to spend the money allocated to his signing on a replacement for the injured Spinazzola, meaning they could only offer £10.2 million, which was promptly rejected. Instead, Xhaka stayed at Arsenal, even extending his current deal till 2024, with an option for a further year, meaning we'll read plenty more "he only passes sideways" tweets this season, which, as @BenAsh66 points out on Twitter, are inaccurate. 2020-21 saw the former Gladbach midfielder ranked 19th for progressive passes in Europe's top 5 leagues, whilst his 268 passes into the final third was only topped by Busquets, Locatelli and Zonzi, Cruz and Parejo. In fact, over the last 4 completed seasons, Xhaka has never finished lower than 8th for passes into the final third in the Premier League, and has twice topped the list. Xhaka has plenty of faults, but passing sideways isn't one of them. 7. Trent can't defend. As @England's best centre-back suggested on Twitter, it's actually crazy to suggest that Trent Alexander-Arnold is bad at defending. Obviously, the 22-year-old, who is fast approaching 200 appearances for Liverpool, is exceptional on the ball, with his 32 Premier League assists over the last 3 completed seasons, only topped by De Bruyne in the same period. And whilst his creativity has been evident this season already, with no player in Europe having created more than his 19 chances at the time of writing, his defending is actually underrated. When you compare him to the right-backs at Liverpool's top 4 rivals, Walker, James and Wan-Bissaka, his stats actually look very solid. His 3.2 tackles and interceptions per 90 last term was only topped by AWB's otherworldly 4.4, and his 74% tackle success rate was better than James's 70% and only marginally lower than Walker's 76%. Factor in that he makes the same amount of blocks per 90 as Walker, completes 2.1 clearances per 90, a figure topped only by Wan-Bissaka, and has the highest pressure success rate, and it's clear Trent can defend. His one weakness? Aerially. His 22% aerial dual win rate from last season is incredibly poor. It was over 40% lower than James and Walker's, who ranked highest. If the youngster can add that to his bow, he'll be a very competent all-round defender with world-class attacking ability. 6. Turkey to get to the Euro 2020 semi-finals. As @EuroExpert pointed out on Twitter, everyone who predicted that Turkey would reach the Euro 2020 semi-finals, including some in Team FD, cough cough Joe, was proved spectacularly wrong. The logic was clear. On paper, the Crescent Stars had a very solid side. Söyüncü was viewed at the time as one of the Premier League's best emerging centre-backs, whilst Kabak and Demiral also had plenty of experience in Europe's top 5 leagues. Their midfield could have featured then West Brom player Yokuşlu and Milan's Çalhanoğlu, whilst Çelik, Yazici and crucially Yilmaz had all played huge roles in the toppling of PSG in France with Lille. But people ignored their form going into the tournament. Since the start of 2020, Sunil Gomez's side had played 14 games, winning only 5 of them, whilst conceding 20 goals. And it was clear their defensive frailties followed them to the tournament, as they conceded 21 shots per game, the most in the competition, and 8 goals to Italy, Wales and Switzerland to be dumped out at the first stage. A total disaster. 5. Inter Milan's collapse. When Inter Milan lost their top scorer, outstanding wingback and elite manager in one summer in the face of a financial crisis, it had, as Zach344671134 pointed out, a lot of people tipping them to completely fall apart this season. But by the end of the window that was made to look pretty silly, as the Nerazzurri managed to sign PSV's Denzel Dumfries to replace Hakimi, and Edin Dzeko and Joaquin Correa to complement Lautaro Martinez up front. Having played nearly 200 Serie A games and netted 85 goals in that time, the third top 5 league where he has hit at least 50, at 35 years old Dzeko brings experience, presence and no little goal-scoring nous, even if his skills have faded in recent years. At 27 years old though, Joaquin Correa is in his prime, and having contributed at least 10 league goals for the last 3 seasons whilst operating at above 0.44 expected goals and assists per 90 throughout, we back him to thrive in his new surroundings. Factor in a coach wedded to the same formation, an elite defence and depth in midfield, not to mention their solid start to the season, and it's clear Inter Milan are going nowhere. 4. Jordan Ibe is better than Raheem Sterling. We're going back a few years for this one, but following Raheem Sterling's move to Man City in 2015, there was a significant portion of fans and even commentators who believed Liverpool already had the perfect replacement for the English forward. Jordan Ibe had made his debut for the Reds 2 years earlier and had impressed at times, including in a short loan spell at Derby in which he netted 5 goals. His pace, agility and dribbling ability led some to believe he could match and even surpass the level reached by Sterling at Anfield. But while his attacking numbers looked pretty decent on the face of it, completing over 4 dribbles, taking over 2 shots and creating 1.5 chances per 90 in 2015-16, his end product was never particularly impressive, and he was afforded just 12 Premier League starts that campaign. He signed for Bournemouth the following summer and despite contributing to 8 league goals in his second campaign, struggled to hold down a place in the first team under Eddie Howe. He's now a free agent, having spoken out about his struggles with depression during the 2020-21 campaign. Let's hope to see him back on a football pitch soon. 3. Mason Mount is Lampard's son. Following his return to Chelsea as manager in 2019, Frank Lampard was widely praised for introducing a number of academy players to the first team, with Mason Mount quickly becoming one of his key players. But it wasn't long before fans, particularly on social media, began to turn on Mount, who only turned 21 that season. Questioning his continued selection following what they deemed to be poor performances, critics began to suggest that favouritism was at play, with Lampard and Mount well acquainted from their season together at Derby County. Some fans reasoned that Mount was being picked just because he worked hard off the ball, and that is certainly a factor in what makes him so useful to club and country. But what they failed to see was that this was a young player who was improving rapidly, with his metrics in tackling, shooting, chance creation and passing all increasing significantly season on season and ranking him among the best all-round attacking midfielders in Europe, and his ability to perform as an 8, 10 and in a front 3, showcasing his tactical intelligence. It was therefore telling that when revered tactician Thomas Tuchel took over at Stamford Bridge, Mount remained one of the first names on the team sheet. And following his defence-splitting pass that set up Kai Havertz for the winner in the Champions League final, the haters were well and truly silenced. 2. Lukaku isn't world class. Romelu Lukaku's €115 million return to Chelsea in the summer 2021 transfer window was widely welcomed by fans of the Premier League. Following a stellar 2-year stint at Inter Milan in which the Belgian scored 64 goals in 95 appearances and consolidated his status as one of the best strikers on the planet. But just 2 years earlier, supporters in England had ridiculed Lukaku as he endured a difficult final season at Man United. Struggling with what was later diagnosed as a digestion issue at Inter, the centre-forward was called out for his gain in weight, while an infamous meme depicting him playing in jeans and Timberlands began doing the rounds online. In reality, he was being made a scapegoat for a side which had seen his attacking play deteriorate rapidly in Jose Mourinho's final months in charge, with fans quickly forgetting that this was the same player who had become the youngest ever to reach 100 Premier League goals the previous campaign. In fact, his expected goals per 90 actually increased in 2018-19, despite other elements of his game diminishing. The deadly goalscorer United had signed 2 years earlier was very much still there. And he was quickly vindicated, working under a manager in Antonio Conte who knew exactly how to cater to his strengths, and was named Serie A MVP after firing Inter to the Scudetto. 1. Salah is a one-season wonder. We've covered some pretty bizarre claims on this list, but the idea of Mo Salah being a one-season wonder after he scored 32 goals in his debut Premier League season, setting a new record for a 38-game campaign, might be the most ridiculous of the lot. And it's not just because of what he's achieved since. When Salah arrived at Anfield in 2018, he's one of the hottest attackers in Europe, having scored 29 and assisted 17 across the previous 2 Serie A campaigns for Roma. However, certain sections of the English media clearly hadn't learned the lessons of Kevin De Bruyne, whose disappointing spell at Chelsea had led many to doubt the value of his big money move to Man City 3 years earlier. This fed into a narrative that Liverpool were taking a big risk by signing Salah, and when he took the league by storm, those who had followed that narrative put it down to luck. And while he did overperform in front of goal, his XG of 25.14 was still elite, while his 4.4 shots per 90 was only beaten by Harry Kane, indicating how Jurgen Klopp's system was designed for him to thrive. And he hasn't let up since. While he's never hit the same heights of 2018, the Egyptian has scored at least 23 goals in all competitions in the 3 campaigns since. So guys, that was our rundown of 10 times football Twitter got it wrong. What did you guys think of the list, and did I miss anyone out? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, it really does help us with the algorithm. Please subscribe to Football Daily with notifications turned on, and I'll catch you next time.